15 years now, specifically, seriously writing for children for that period of time. It was 2001, believe it or not, before the towers fell. It was January. All of a sudden I had this where, okay, I am going to do it. It's funny, I don't exactly remember what made me decide to be more of a picture book writer. I'm not exactly sure. But at some point, that's where I was in 2001. I was like, I'm writing a picture book. And so I had to get rid of all those words. And that was very hard. That was very hard to get rid of all those words that I learned that I had to
You said that you were going to do the picture books. Do you draw?
No.
Okay. No. I don't know.
I do not draw, and that's a hindrance for a writer who does picture books. But you know, you can find illustrators, right? So, yeah, that's the whole thing, you know. And at the time, you know, when I was learning the different techniques of writing for children, you know, it was always said, you submit your story, they will find an illustrator. That was what it is. So let's talk about the myths of writing for children. This is somewhat of a pet peeve of mine, and it shouldn't bother me though, but I figured I'd put it out there. I have a grandchild. I have a child or grandchild, so I understand how to write for children. You know, it's a different type. It's different. You read a book to your grandchild, and you see your grandchild and go, oh, what cute things that this grandchild is doing, or what cute thing this child is doing. Let me write about it. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. But you have to learn how to put that on paper. I don't have to read children's stories to write for children. You do. I know, like I said, you know, you may read your child's book or whatever, but you really do have to write. If you're decided you're going to write a YA, you really need to pick up a YA book just to see the tone of it, to see how it, you know, see how they say certain things, and if it's you know, something that read what you feel like. I don't know. Like, I guess I'm going to use Tremaine. No, I'm just saying, I know Tremaine, when he wrote his book, didn't realize that it was going to appeal to so many kids. I know he didn't. But, you know, if you knew ahead of time what you're going to write about, and you want to see what others are writing, you need to read that type of book so that you know how to approach a kid, you know. I mean, yes, ma'am.
Well, where does a YA end and an adult begin? Because, I mean, that's very hard to distinguish. Because some of the YA books that I read, that my daughter's reading, and I'm like, there's more sex and violence in it, and I'm wondering what determines where's the cutoff.
Well, that's really hard to say, really, because, you know, I read Harry Potter, and yes, I read it, you know, I write for children, but I think I would read it even if I didn't. I don't have the breakdowns, but I know it has something to do with word count. How big is her, how many words would you say her book is?
I mean, they're small books, but I mean, there was one in particular that I remember she was reading, and it was about a little girl she was raped at 6.
So you're talking about content. You're talking about content.
Right. You're talking about content. Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about the content of it.
As far as age range, I know it's like from middle school to high school. So you're looking at like what? 13 to 18 is usually what they call the age range for YA.
Right. So,
right, but that's what I'm saying. For the content, what determines? Okay,
I think what it is though is it's not so much what the author puts in the book, is what the author put in the book that will relate to the person who's going to read it. An 18-year-old or 16-year-old who's been raped may relate to that. Yeah. That's how it determines the age for the young adult book.
And then too, it depends on the level that they go into it. You know, mentioning a rape is one thing, but describing a rape is another thing.
Having the reader go through the rape is different. That would be more adult.
That's a great
more detail.
But if it's describing how the young person got past it, or moved on or dealt with it, that would be an adult.
Thank you, ladies. I can write a children's book without researching the genres. You need to know your audience. You need to know who you're writing. You need to know. You need to study the genres. And it actually makes it easier, though. It makes it easier if you know exactly where you want to focus your writing on, then you can write to that. It makes it a lot easier. And when I say genres, if you're not familiar, it's picture book, YA, you know, easy readers, chapter books. That's middle grade books. Those are the ones that I'm referring to. This is called Understanding Children's Book Genres by Laura Backus. I think I'm saying her name right. And she's the publisher of Children's Book Insider. It's a newsletter. It's also a website. It's Write for Kids website. She's very good. She gives advice on how to write for children, and I would highly suggest that you go to this website. I'm just going to go straight to the different categories. And the first one that they have on here is picture books. Here she says a picture book is, you know, it's an illustrations that play a significant role in storytelling. The picture books are separated into 3 categories: and board books, early picture books, and standard picture books. The board books, they typically lengths are 12 to 16 pages. So, and then it says, you know, it has a lift, the flaps, and novelty books. You know, they're usually the hard books, board book really, and sometimes they're small, and it's for the kids that are toddlers. You know, and the baby books, though, the baby, I would consider a baby book a board book. But, you know, they're kind of the fluffy books, you know, that you pull, and the kids, you know, they like the pretty pictures, you know, that kind of thing, which is, you know, pretty small size here. But yeah, you have to think about that if you wanted to write for younger children. You know, there's the picture books. I mean, there's the board books. And the early picture books, and it says from age 2 to 5, it's familiar to child's everyday life. Simple fairy tales, cumulative rhyming books, or concept books that are more sophisticated than the board books. So it is the content, Lorena. It's what's in the book, but it's not, you know, it's not graphic. And if you notice here, it kind of gives you more of a, you know, what's in it versus what's different from the board books and the early picture books. Generally, it's 500 words or less, and their average of 32 pages. And you at 32 pages with the artwork on every page, when you're writing, you have to really think about how many pages that you expect your book to be. So it says 32 pages. It's best, if you decide to do early picture book, it's best to do 32 pages. It's very, very good to know that. Very good to know that going in, because that way you know that you may have too many words. Yeah, I mean, yes, you know, it says how many words that you should hear, but it works out. It works out really good. A standard picture book, standard 32 pages, ages 4 to 8. Occasionally a picture book will have 1,000 words. Yeah, I've seen those. It's quite extensive. And nonfiction. And one thing about books in general, it doesn't have to be a picture book or a chapter book or whatever, but parents read to their children. So sometimes when the book appears to be a little too long, by the time they get of a certain age, it's just right for them because their parents have read it. They've read it. A lot of kids can memorize a book and say, "Oh, I can read," you know, because they've memorized it. It's so short or whatever. But you know, when they grow up, as they're growing in age, I say grow up, not an adult, but as they grow up in age, they see the words and then they understand what those words actually mean. It's really good fun to see a child when a book that they have. That their parents have read all their lives. I mean, you know, their small lives, and then understand it, to see the different expressions on their faces, and it's really nice to see. So that's, anyone has any questions about the picture books? So, trying to cover a little bit. I have a few examples of it back on the wall there. So if you want to take a look at it, of course, there's the library. So if you're really that interested, you can go to the library. Okay, the easy reader. Just starting to read, kind of where I was when I said, you know, the kids now learning how to read and now understanding the words that they're reading. The easy reader section is really when you know that your child is a reader, because then they go and get those same Nancy Drew mysteries now they have a early an easy reader Nancy Drew mysteries so they're shorter and they're very get them started in it, and that it's a good idea to do the easy reader. So anyway, so it says, let's see, from kindergarten to 3rd grade, text getting progressively more complex. The word count is from 200 to 1,500 words. Sometimes there's, it can be 2,000 words. And all of these are, I say suggestions, but I mean, they're solid. But, we've learned since at least since I started, things have changed from when I first started studying about how to write for children. They have gotten progressively more because they would not have taken a 2,000 word book, when it said that it only calls for 1,500, 200 to 1,500. But now things are changing. I think the world of Amazon and Kindle, I guess, it's changed. It's changed a whole lot. The transition books, sometimes called early chapter books, for 6 to 9-year-olds, and it says it bridges the gap from easy reader to chapter books. Now, yeah, I can see that. Transition books and easy readers, I think my opinion is they're pretty much the same. They're pretty much the same. This is just another way of, defining it. Because I probably would not write a transition book. I would probably either pick an easy reader or a chapter book. So, a middle grade book. This is a hard one to do, as I understand. I'm trying to do middle grade right now. So I don't know, I think I may just jump to the YA like I originally thought, but
yes. For those of you that are interested, according to my sources, that's what the publishers are in need of right now more than any other.
Middle grade?
With this YA grade, because I had an agent contact me about writing for the middle grade, and she said that's really what the publishers are looking for right now. So if you're looking for a traditional publisher, you need to come up with a book for the middle grade, especially anything that's girl-centered. That's what they need. That's what they're looking for.
So if you want to write somebody in the 5th grade, go ahead.
Oh, and one of the things that it may say it in this handout, your protagonist has to be the age that you're writing for. Has to be. I know there's, that's kind of what determines the age group of the children that you're focused on. That the protagonist has to be that age, within that age group. Because kids.
The Babysitter's Club when I was growing up, the Babysitter's Club books. I mean, I got them once a month, like 4 books in series. And I wanted to be a part of that group. I started carrying my own little, babysitting kit wherever I went when I was babysitting. I wanted to be a part of it.
Also, as far as protagonist, I read somewhere that you want the protagonist to be towards the upper end of whatever that age group is, like it's 8 to 12, you want to be older.
Because kids that are 8 would rather read about A 12,
And
yeah.
a 12-year-old don't want to read
Read
about
about the person at an 8,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of it. So chapter books, ages 7 to 10. So look at that middle grade. It's kind of, yeah, it's going up a little bit higher than that. These books are 45 to 60 manuscript pages. So considerably longer than the other books. Yeah, this one does not have the word count in this section. Chapter books. It just says 45 to 60 manuscript pages. Now, there is a format that you can look at to see how many words per page that it will be, and I can, again, find out all that information. I can have that for you if you decide to come to our
60 pages is roughly 2,000,
Yeah.
I mean,
But you have to think about
yeah, 2,000 words.
Yeah. Chapters often end in the middle of a scene to keep the reader turning the pages. So that's always important. And that's actually important for adults too. You want them to continue to read. So yeah, that's how they do the chapter books. Middle grade again is the 8 to 12. Manuscript suddenly gets longer, 100 to 150 pages. Stories, complex subplots involving secondary characters are woven through the story, and the themes are more sophisticated. Kids get hooked on characters at this age, and that's true. Protagonists are kids 9 to 13, so yeah, it looks like they are. There is an explanation on the protagonists. So yeah, you're right. So if you're doing that age group, if you're wanting to appeal to the 9-year-old, write about a 13-year-old or 12-year-old. Fantasies, characters, and now down to the YA is 12 and up. Manuscripts 130 to about 200 pages long. Characters 13 and up. Plots can be complex with several major characters. The characters emerge as the focus of the book. That middle grade and young adult, to me, they're very close to the same. So that's why it's really hard to write for a middle grade book, is because of the fact that young adults is on there.
And then young adult, I think you can have more of a romance element, where middle grade you wouldn't necessarily.
Oh yeah.
So for young adult, could you write about college students then? I'm trying to find out how far that would go. Okay.
18 is the limit. 18 is the limit. Like 12th grade. That's it. 12th
grade. Well, some 12th graders say, but no. By the time they're up in 12th grade, they're most likely reading.
Most
reading adults.
You're talking about college level. They have a new category now, and it's called new adult. That's specifically for college. It's new adult. That's specifically for college.
We were trying to figure out what this new adult thing was. We're like, wait a minute, what's the new adult? Okay,
college students that are in college and trying to
you
find
answered
their
our
way
question.
in life.
I'm gonna press on just a little bit, and that's the graphic novels. Have you heard of the graphic novels, right? I'm gonna read the definition of a graphic novel. A graphic novel is a narrative work in which the story is conveyed to the reader using sequential art in either an experimental design or traditional comics format. The term is employed in a broad manner encompassing non-fiction works and thematically linked stories, as well as fictional stories across a number of genres.
I have no idea what that is.
Exactly.
Okay, what it is, I'm going to give you two examples of what a graphic. One is the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Have y'all heard of that?
Yes, I was just had that in my. I was just about to ask that.
Novel. And the other one is the Dork Diaries. That's the girl version of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which is a little white boy. And then the Dork Diaries is girls. It's like these 4 girls, and I think they're in middle school, high school, somewhere like that.
It's real creative, but there's some where they just use journal-like letters and pictures and put the little words in it. It's really creative and very eclectic.
It looks kind of like a comic book, but it's an upper level, different level.
And for those kids who struggle with reading, graphic novels is the way to go.
It is.
It's the way to go. They've got the pictures and you know, it's the way to go. So if you're really interested in the graphic novels, talk to your librarian. They have books and they'll show you exactly where they are. What I feel is most important, one of the most important things, is joining a children's writers group. The Society of Children's Book Writers, I've said that several times now, is a good organization. There is a registration fee. If you want to know that, you can look it up. They really introduced me to a lot of things. They gave me a lot of information that I needed. More to what I was looking for. They gave me the first look into what I needed to do. They gave me the page count, gave me illustrations on how to do things. And then when you join the group, you find other members that are in that group. And like I said, Jan and Nino go down. She was the person who she belonged to it. I joined it, and then I think everybody that was in that workshop did too. And we learned together. And that critique group was a great experience for me. I mentioned the Right for Kids, the Children's Book Insider, very, very good. They have a YouTube page that give you instructions on how to do different types of writing for children. Very good instructional. I've taken a few of their, I haven't taken anything, but I've watched a few of their YouTubes. They also have material for you as well, reference guides that you can download and everything.
When you're writing in different genres, is there a standard font that you're supposed to use for? I mean, is there a font or a particular standard that you're supposed to utilize while writing these? Because I can understand word count, but I can't make the word count go into a particular page because depending on the font and the depending on
which genre are you referring to?
Well, I'm more of a young adult, but
the publisher that I know of, the submission requirement, even for children books, is 12.
They just want it to be readable, right. And Times New Roman is, most
standard.
Yeah, that's the standard to measure your page count and everything by. Once it's complete, if you want to change it, you can, but that's the standard for measurement.
Is it double space?
Double, always double space. And another one on here is Publishers Weekly Children's Bookshelf. I have to say I love this newsletter. It is a free newsletter, and it's Publishers Weekly. It's free, so I would suggest you going out there and signing up for their newsletter, and I get it every Thursday. If there was a writers' conference or anything that went on, usually it's national conferences. If there's a popular writer who's done a book signing, they'll put it in there, and a lot of other ones. They'll give you some updates on people, on authors. I really truly like it. It's always good to know what's out there so that you will know how to write for that audience. If sometimes you feel like your story is the only story. Your story. Nobody's told my story. But you kind of find out later that somebody has written that story or have that idea, and it's good to know what's out there. So I really would suggest Publishers Weekly for that. I know it was up at A, but I went down and I wanted to talk more about the critique group. It's good to be in a critique group with children authors, children writers, children authors. because, you know, you may write for children and you're in an adult one, they can't make the same judgment on your writing as a person who's writing in the children's market. You know, as an adult writing for adults, it's, you know, you can't judge a children's story on at the same standards. You really can't. And they may be giving you advice that's not, you know, not accurate if they write for adults and you write for children. So it's always better to be in a group, critique group, when you're sharing your critique of children's. Now, you can write both, but, you know, for the children's authors, you should write you should be critiquing a children's story. So I really push that because I know of people who are in those mixed groups, you know, and it's just not the same. It's just not the same. You don't get the full benefit of what your writing can be. They may be steering you in the wrong direction. And you know, we hate criticism. We all do, I hope, I think. I know I don't like criticism. And you know, they may be criticizing you for something that really should be there, but they don't know that it should be there, you know? So it's always good to be with other children's writers. One of my favorite query letter people is Laura Sue Park. She's written for children on different, she's a good author that's written for children, and she's wrote this, she's got this template on a query letter. So on when you send your manuscript off to a traditional publisher, you probably have possibly already heard these already, but you know, you have to have your query letter, and that query letter needs to go out before your, you know, you can either go to the as a children's author, sometimes they'll accept them directly from the author to the publisher. It's gotten a lot harder to do that now, though. It really has. It really has gotten a lot harder. So that same query letter, but a little bit different tone, it goes to the your agent. And when you send out that query letter, you have to make sure that it goes to the right person. It's always good to put a person's name on the query letter, not to whom it may concern. If you put that the editor's name or the name on it, they know that you took the time to research that this is the best place for me, and I know, you know, and you can find this information online easily. Writer's Market as well. You can find out who the editor, who handles the, who accepts the manuscripts when you send it there. So it's so with the query letter, then when you send they said, oh, I like it through your query, it's great, you know. Then you have to have a cover letter to go with your manuscript. So you can't just send them your manuscript with, you know, nothing on it. You have to have a cover letter. And it also have, you know, these guidelines on it. And you may tell a little bit more about the story versus just giving them a glimpse of the story. And that accompanies your manuscript when you send it off to either the publisher or the agent. So, okay, so we've got the query letter, we've got the cover letter, the manuscript. Most of the time they'll ask for the manuscript for children's because children's books are pretty small. Unless you're on the high end with the YA, then they may not want the whole manuscript, but a lot of children's, they want the whole manuscript when they ask for it. So, but they have to ask for it first. A lot of times they will, you know, as a traditional publisher, will not accept manuscripts without an agent. If you go to a conference, all the agents that are present at that conference will allow you to submit. I said agent, sorry, the publishers. They allow you to send your manuscript to them. This is, now, I know that's what the SCBWI conference is. I'm not sure if it's with all the conferences, but SCBWI is great that way. Well, that you can submit directly to the publisher, whereas in some of the publishers will ask for an agent. It needs to have 2 conferences a year. Nationally, they have 2 conferences a year, but they also have 2 conferences in Florida. There's a Florida Children's, so they've got regionals as well. There's also, I believe it's Georgia and Alabama are together, and they're called the Southern Breeze. So I've gone to their conference too. They've got a nice conference. It was in Birmingham, but I think all of them now are in Atlanta. Atlanta's the place to be. So, you know, you really do have to promote yourself, which at first was a little hard for me because, you know, I'm used to being in the background in certain circumstances. But yeah, you have to get out there and promote yourself and get yourself known. Sometimes just passing out a business card will work, but sometimes it won't. You have to actually say who you are and everything. Felicia, your experience in schools, how did you get yours in the school?
I submitted the book to Florida Publishers Association. And I knew people in the school systems in Gaston County, and I think it was timing as well as just having a good book. Fortunately, the superintendent was up for election that year, and anyway, he made this lowball offer, and I countered, and he agreed with me, and books got into the schools, and kids enjoyed it. You know, that led to other things. They kept asking me to come back, asked me to come and talk to the kids about the book. They had great questions about it. The last thing I heard that they did was they had an event called a novel affair, and each of the students took a scene from the book and made like a science fair type. It was so nice. It was really nice though.
Any more questions about traditional? Because I'm going to go on to self-publishing, which Tremaine is going to help me with that one. Yes, I called you out.
All I did with self-publishing really is just basically just write my draft. It does not have to be perfect. Just want to make that clear. I've talked to many people, they feel it just has to be perfect. No, it doesn't. Because you're going to learn after it's being edited, it's not perfect. So just write it to where you feel you can't write anymore. Have it edited, have a cover, and what I did, I used a website that many people use, createspace.com. You upload your interior as a PDF, and you upload your cover as a PDF, and then you get a proof back, and then your book is released.
Lightning Source has a template for children's books. So most all of them now will accept children's books. It just may be a little bit different guidelines for you.
I think, I'm pretty sure Amazon has the same template or something.
Well, Amazon now has Kindle Kids. Oh, for Kindle, yeah, that's true. That's true. Which is a different Kindle Kids. Great. I have it downloaded on my computer. I haven't uploaded the pictures yet. Have you downloaded it yet?
I just started reading the.
You just started reading
for KFA.
It's great. I mean, I think you can really do a lot with that.
Because with their program now, they're adding a lot more. I think they got animation, voice, and you know all this other kind of stuff that you can add to the kids.
So yes, you can e-publish a children's book now, which is fantastic. Before, when they first started it, they just seemed to be scanned pages and black and white. But now you've got full color and interactive, like you know Barbara was saying. You get it's very very promising for us children authors. You know, we kind of felt out a little bit. Yeah, we felt a little left out there for a while there because you know all these other Kindle books out there, nothing for children. But now they've got it out there, which is fantastic. I didn't have any more about e-publishing on that, so except for the fact that you can do it now. And again, when you do the self-publishing and the e-publishing, just make sure that you look at those guidelines as well. Make sure that you're writing to your audience, and you're doing the word counts and everything. Just making sure that everything is still legit. Not, you know, you're not sending it to a traditional and you're doing it on your own, but it's always good to follow those same guidelines, especially if you want it to get into bookstores and stuff. So it's always best to do that, because they have a hard time finding where to put your book in a store. You know, they just may not do it, you know. So to make it easy for them. One thing that I did not mention earlier is but I'll probably go into it deeper in the critique group meeting, is you were wondering if you want to know the words that you can use, what grade level of the words you use. There is a program in Microsoft that will give you that. It's a Fleisch Kincaid. I'll go into that further. Like I said, if you're interested in the children's, please come to our meeting, and we'll discuss more. We'll discuss more.